Hello, you're listening to the Eric McKenna Project. Are you ready?
All right, so what is radical kindness?
That's
right off the bat.
No,
buddy.
that's a great question. It's, so I've spoken a lot on this topic lately, and when I talk about radical kindness, I talk about it in a business sense, right? So we were taught as kids in kindergarten, growing up, be nice to people, treat people with dignity and respect. I've been in the business world, a lawyer for a long time, corporate America. That art is lost. So I've looked at my entire career, and when I really traced back the steps of all the big things that happened, great opportunities, cool people I met, cool businesses I've been involved with, they all came from moments of kindness. And when I talk about radical kindness, if I break it down to one simple thing, it's giving people your time with zero expectation. That's the key, zero expectation of anything in return. I've done that my entire, now as a lawyer, it's counterintuitive, right? We're taught, be adversarial, your time is money.
Bill hours, right?
Well, exactly. But I said, screw that. I'm going to do it completely different. That's actually helped me grow my law firm more than anything else. Just being able to do that, give my time with zero expectation. That, in a nutshell, is radical kindness.
From a lawyer perspective, that's totally something unexpected for me. That's a radical idea, period,
Yes.
in your business. I think that's why the public has, unfortunately, it's why we have such a critical view of the attorneys, because every 10 minutes is, a lump sum of money for us, right?
Absolutely. Look, I look at it, and it's always funny when I get on these stages and talk, I'm a lawyer, I have a beard, I'm a stockier guy, I'm Italian, and then I get up on stage and talk about kindness. I think people's heads explode, because they look and they're thinking, wait a minute.
That's great, though.
But it's really been a way to draw people into the conversation, because they expect me, if they look at me without knowing what I'm going to talk about, right? I have a certain stature. People assume a certain thing about me.
Right.
But then I get up and talk about that power of kindness and just treating people a certain way. It really opens the conversation. I can't tell you how many, after all these talks I've done across the country, how many people have come up to me afterwards and said, I needed to hear that. More people need to talk about this. It's a powerful, I had a guy from a hedge fund come up to me after one of the talks, and he's like, I need this in my company. I may have you come in and do a talk at our annual event, because people need to understand how powerful this thing is. And it's, to me, I had a discussion yesterday with someone. I said, I sometimes just take a step back. I get paid to get on stage and talk about something we were taught as kids. That blows my mind. That how do people lose
How did
that?
it get so lost? How the concept gets so lost?
Right. It's crazy to me, because it's, and again, I understand, we become adults and we lose creativity. We lose a lot of things we have, imagination as kids, but that common decency, between two human beings, I think people, the business world boxes us into a lane, and people are afraid to veer. I just said, screw it. I don't like institutions. I don't like rules. I've done things my own way, and it's worked. And that's been the biggest strength of my life.
We'll go off the deep end for a second here. Hopefully we can come back around, because I got a lot of good questions for this guy. You talked about how you were stereotyped for multiple reasons when you walked on stage.
Yeah.
And that goes back to one of my pet peeves about current day society, in that we label and pigeonhole and box people and groups, and we create names for additional groups, and that, I think, is extremely counterproductive in human civility and creating a better society. What's your thoughts on that?
No, I completely agree, because why label people, right? Labels are subjective.
Completely.
And that's
arbitrary.
Exactly. And that's the problem. When people, box people in or label people, it's from their viewpoint. There's 50 other viewpoints to take. And I feel like when people do that, and then so you box these people in, right? And you label these people in this group. And if those people aren't strong enough or have the fortitude or the self-awareness enough to know that I'm not just that,
right,
then it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. Then you get these people that just are stuck in life. And I think that's where people get stuck, when they have these labels put on them.
Right.
Okay, you're the smart kid. You're supposed to go to college. You're supposed to do these things. You're supposed to get married, have kids. Okay, well, that's just what I'm supposed to do. and they just follow a path without questioning the path. And I did that part of my life, right? I kind of, I went to college, went to law school, kids, married, followed the traditional path. But now that I'm 41 years old, I started questioning everything. I walked away from corporate America, walked away from a high-paying job for no reason other than I couldn't make a difference there anymore, and I wanted to do things my own way. People looked at me like I was batshit crazy. Like, why would you do that? And it's just, I question the rules. I question the stereotypes. I question the path. And I think people need to do that more. I think if people start doing that in society, questioning the label, questioning the path or the box, I think the world opens up. But people are afraid to do it.
Okay, that's the next question.
Yeah.
So people like yourself, people that are, I will put myself in this category. Here we are labeling. I won't go to high income earners, but I will go to high achievers, people that hold themselves to a higher standard of achievement.
Yep.
Whatever that achievement is, whatever that personal goal is.
Yep.
We get up, we talk. I have friends that ask me, hey, I give you courage, Eric, for doing this or that. And how'd you do this? Or what was your idea for this? And, how were you willing to make this change? And so I tell them, quite frankly, I don't think there's a magic pill. I just decided to do it. But it's like you could tell 100 people that and maybe one will get it, maybe. So why are we like that as a species? Why are we that way?
Well, so the key word you said was decide. It's making a decision. And that's, again, we have these fears. As human beings, I think because the way society operates and because of these stereotypes, these boxes, these lanes, it creates these artificial barriers, these fears, right? Those high achievers like you and I'll put us in that category. We've just decided, it's the decision that we want something more. We're stepping into the fear. When I was out in California in, I think it was February, I was speaking at this thing called the Goal Achievement Academy, and my talk was about risk mitigation and entrepreneurship. Now, I went there with this whole talk, crafted, saw the group of people that were there the first day, said, this will not work for these people. So I had to change everything on the fly. And then what I started talking about was that fear. I said, what you have to understand as an entrepreneur and as a human, kind of this path, there are certain risks that we just have to accept. And we have to step into that fear. People are afraid to step into the fear because they don't know what's on the other side. And I think that's where they like comfort. Human nature is to be comfortable. We want to feel safe. That's Maslow's one of his hierarchies.
Sure.
Safety, security. That only gets you so far in life. If you're constantly striving for comfort, safety, and security, you're only here. There's the higher level, and that's when you kind of take that step across that fear line, step into the fear, and accept the risk with it. And I think that's what people need to understand. But it's human nature to feel comfortable.
To me, it just seems to be so bloody difficult. Having a job, having the comfort part of it, but not being homeless, not having food, and if you decide to have a family, making sure your family are taken care of, it all usually centers around the job, right? The job, where you go and you toil. The bulk of society toils for others,
right? Yes.
In the hope that we get enough of the crumbs to be comfortable or at least feel safe.
Yeah.
Is that right?
That's exactly right.
So to me, I was wired differently. I saw it when I was young. And a couple of my good friends were wired differently too. But it's hard, and you have a very hard job. I think for what you're trying to, obviously your plate's full. I commend you for that. But any kind of motivation to me as a recipient, I was never a motivational speaker. I would give my advice if I'd be asked, but I quit giving advice a couple years ago because, not that the folks asking weren't sincere, I just quit because I never saw anyone use it, or I never saw any progress in what they asked about.
Yeah.
So it isn't that I don't have any hope for humanity. I'm hoping that you can help me change that today in terms of people making changes and embracing fear or trying something different.
Yeah.
But to me, seems like you have such a struggle reaching folks. The industry does, right?
Yeah, it is. And it's because, again, there has to be a trigger in people's lives that make them realize something has to change, right? If you're comfortable, and I'll use myself as the example, right? I was in corporate America. I was general counsel of a large IT company for 14 years.
Probably a nice job, eh?
Great job. I was able to run all my other businesses, build all this other stuff. I had my law practice, private practice on the side, part-time. It was great. I was there 3 years too long because I was safe and comfortable and nothing triggered me to make the change. Then one day I realized, I woke up, they got rid of the CFO at the time, who was a good friend of mine, and the reason behind it was completely wrong. They should have got rid of some other people, but they got rid of him. And I took this step back and said, I can't make a difference here anymore. And that was the trigger. It was like
your trigger.
That was my trigger. I said, my purpose is to make a difference. And whatever I'm doing, it's not about money for me. It's not about recognition. I mean, I like recognition. That's part of who I am. I'm a Leo, so there's part of that.
Sure.
It's not about necessarily the money. I want to make a difference. Like, I want to make a difference in people's lives, with my clients. If I'm on a stage, I want people to walk away from that talk with something. I knew this part of my life, this 14 years I've given this company, me making a difference was over. I came home one day and told my wife, I'm resigning. And she looked at me and she said...
Did it happen that quick?
That quick. She looked at me and she said, I've been waiting for you to say that for a couple years. Like, she knew it was coming. I just had to... It was my hedge, right? They paid me. I did what I wanted. I ran the department. I didn't have to really answer to anybody. It was a great gig. But then one day I said, nope, can't do it anymore. And that was it. New CFO came into town one day, scheduled an all-day meeting with me. Walked in... First 5 minutes, like, hey, great to meet you. He's a nice guy. Like, I think him and I would have got along great. Like, Italian guy like me. He came in, he had all these papers, wanted to talk through all these plans. We were acquiring a company at the time.
Okay.
And I said, hey, great to meet you, but before we get to all that, I'm resigning. And he looked at me like a deer in the headlights. He's like, wait, what? Because I was the only lawyer. There was no succession plan for me.
Got it.
I had a paralegal that kind of could do my job because she's worked for me for so long.
Got it.
But I said, I said, I'm resigning. I'll give you 5 weeks notice.
Wow.
And it was just, he's like, okay. He's like, I guess we don't need to have this meeting today. And that was it. And I walked out of that room, that conference room, and it was this sense of relief, I guess you would say. It wasn't as climatic as I thought it would be. You see those things when people are on a movie and they walk in and they tell the boss to piss off and they just quit and everything's just great. It was just, it was like this sense of relief. And I just walked away. And I knew that it was the right decision. And it was...
Did you already have a plan, though, which you thought you might want to kind of do next?
Yeah, so it was really to take my law firm from part-time to full-time. So I knew I had this, I was already building this plan in the background.
Okay.
And I knew that I could do that. But then I also said, when I resigned, I knew that, okay, the next 18 to 24 months of my career will be the lowest earning income period of my life. That's just what I went into. And this was March of 2018 I resigned. So it's a little over a year and a half ago. I said, it's going to be the lowest earning period of my life. It's been better than I could have ever expected because I took away the black cloud that was sitting over my head that was preventing me from opening up to all these other possibilities. These speaking engagements, these cool things I'm doing, the people I'm working with now, I would have never been able to do that had I not removed that. And that was me stepping into that fear, getting outside of the comfort and saying, I'm just going to try. I'm the type of person, I'll bet on myself over anybody. And that's what it was. I said, I'm going to bet on myself, and I'll make this work.
It's a high level of confidence, though, that, as you know, a lot of people don't have, or they may have it, they just haven't used it yet.
Yeah, I think confidence is something. There's two schools of thought, right? People think you're either born with confidence or you develop confidence. I think you develop confidence. I think it's really about understanding your skill sets, understanding what you're good at and what you're not good at. Like I always say, I don't focus on my weaknesses. There's a ton of shit I'm not good at. I don't care. I don't try and make those things better. I take my 4 or 5 things I'm really good at and make them way better than they are right now. That's how I've built my confidence. I know there's things I can't do and I don't try and do them.
But you know what they are.
Exactly. It's the self-awareness.
You can identify what they are.
That's exactly what it is. But people don't take the time. Where I think people go wrong, kind of coming back to the humanity of this whole thing and why people don't step into the fear or get out of the comfort or make these changes, they don't spend enough time working on themselves or growing as a person. If you ask, I guarantee if you go and ask 20 people that are in the professional world how many books they've read since high school, I would venture to say 18 of those people might say 1 or 2.
If that.
If that, exactly. I read 1, maybe 2 books a week.
Right.
And that's how you grow as a person.
No question.
And people don't get that concept. Like, what are you learning every day? Like, are you learning something new? You're either growing or dying as a person. But people just think, no, I'm just going to go to my work, or go to my job, come home at 5 o'clock, have, coach baseball, do whatever I want to do. And if that's what you want, that's fine.
Sure.
And I tell people, if you want that, that's fine. Don't complain.
Yeah.
It always comes down to the people. And I have friends that do this.
Yeah.
They live that life, but yet they complain about stuff they don't have, then make a change. Do something different. But they don't want to do that. So it's this dynamic that's really interesting.
Are you familiar at all with Jim Rohn?
Oh, yeah. Come on.
Okay. Well, I kind of thought you were, but I didn't want to make the comments if we were on the same page. So, traumatic event in my life, his work set me on a new path, mid-90s. I can look back to that. That was my trigger.
Okay.
The event was my trigger.
Okay.
The change was reading his work and listening to on tape, and on CD, but listening to those lessons.
Yeah.
Whatever the reasons were, the hokey nature, like an old uncle talking to, whatever it was what I needed at the time.
Yeah.
He has some gems. One of them is just what you talked about. If you don't want much, you don't need to become much.
Right. Exactly.
Which is okay.
Yep.
It's okay, right?
Yep, absolutely.
But he was such a big person on journaling. That's where I got that from. But reading books. That was his thing, and that turned me that I wasn't reading enough.
Yeah.
And now I think I'm kind of like a sponge.
Yeah.
And it's not always hardback anymore. A lot of it's e-books or whatever.
Sure.
But I think you have to train yourself first. If you haven't read for a long time, I think it's hard for some people who haven't read a book in a long time to be patient enough to read a book.
I agree.
Once you get through, though,
Yep.
it becomes kind of a habit.
Yeah.
I loved it, right?
Yep.
So
Absolutely.
it's a habit you have to start.
Yeah, I think that if I would tell anybody, because I've coached a lot of people, I do some entrepreneur coaching and business coaching, and one of the questions I always ask them, what are your 3 daily habits that make you better? And if they don't have any, the first one I always say is read. Read. Then the second one is write down your goals. Like, write down your goals every single morning. I write down the 10 goals I'm working on, and it's something I've done for probably 10 years. And if I look back at all of my goal journals, I would venture to say 90% of the things I've written down over the years I've achieved.
Absolutely.
Just because I wrote them down. Same thing with, I do vision boards. I do all the stuff they tell you to do in personal development. And people think it's this hokey, new age stuff. It works. It works.
That's why
people
it's
don't get
being
it.
repeated by people in the industry because it works.
I mean, it's so simple. And kind of playing off your point where you said you had that one thing that changed you. Mine was Jack Canfield, The Success Principles.
Love it.
That was the single book that changed my life. I was in my mid-20s, kind of just graduated law school, just had my son unexpectedly. So I'm trying to figure out who I am as a man and as a father and as a lawyer. Like, I'm just confused as a person.
Sure.
Picked up that book, Success Principles. It's a great book. I try and reread it every year. It's it's a long read.
Where?
But the one part of that book that changed my life is the formula he gives you for accountability. E plus R equals O. That single formula, because I think my brain works in a logical sense, event plus a reaction equals the outcome. And he says that you always control one of those variables, therefore you always control an outcome in life.
Right.
And for some reason, it clicked. It's like, if I can't control what happened, I can control how I react to it. Therefore, I can always make the outcome what I want.
No question.
And that single thing changed how I operated in life. And it just made me operate differently. And it's the single thing that completely shifted my perspective, and I believe is a big contributing factor to my success.
Rohn said something in his works, guard the gateway to your mind. And at the time I read that was 96.
Okay.
So I took that as something I was already kind of in line with. I didn't watch a lot of crap TV or salacious stuff. Yeah. But I did probably surround myself with old friends for good old times that weren't they weren't helping me become the person I kind of wanted to be or achieve what I wanted to achieve. So that's kind of how I viewed it. But then here comes social media.
Yeah.
And boy, that guard the gateway to your mind, that is so prophetic now.
Yeah.
And how so many of us aren't doing that.
Yeah. I mean, and that is I typically don't watch the news much anymore.
Yeah, I don't
I keep up with some financial stuff. And even on social media, if I see negativity or unfollow people, or just I don't unfriend them. I'll block them because I don't want to.
Right.
And even as I've grown, I have really close friends. My fraternity brothers, my friends from law school. But I look at over time, my circle has changed. Because as you grow as a person, if people don't grow with you, like I never want to be the smartest person in the room. I want to surround myself with smarter people. I want to learn from people and grow as a person. And your circle keeps changing. If that's what you're trying to do in life, to grow as a person, that you can't keep the same circle. Who I was at 35 is not the same guy I am sitting here today. Who I'll be at 45 is not the same guy I am today.
Right.
It's you become, and even like you say, you have to become that person. Like I looked at it, I think I did an Instagram post a couple of weeks ago talking about this. I said, if I want to grow my law firm, we'll say, to $1 million in revenue, I'm not the guy that can do that yet. I have to become that person. Right. And that's what people don't get. They just think, oh, you just got to keep doing this. No, you have to become a different person. A person that's making $1 million a year is different than a person making $200,000 a year. You have to change who you are, and that takes growth and doing the things you need to do to expand your mind, to change the way you operate, to become more efficient and productive. But people don't want to do that work.
Rowan said something too to change my life, and see what your thoughts on this are. This is good. This is the first time I've been able to have this conversation with somebody in your field like
awesome.
This. This is great. Rowan would say, which was unfathomable to me in the late 90s, but it became a goal. And when I got it, it was unfulfilling, but I looked back at what he said, and it was true. And the statement was, make a goal to become a millionaire, an arbitrary number.
Yeah.
$1 million. Get a lot of money to anyone.
Yep.
Any individual person. Not for the object of having the money, but what you will become in the pursuit of earning it.
Exactly. I wholeheartedly agree with that statement.
Yeah. And there was a point in time where I'll share it in the guitar business.
Yeah.
I kind of reflected. I got a couple $1 million in inventory, and I'm pretty much in the black.
Yeah.
But I wasn't fulfilled because of that. But I took a really hard look at what I had done to get there. And I was, it wasn't a pride thing, but it was a sense of real accomplishment. Yeah. But not because of what was around me.
Yeah.
Does that make any sense?
No, listen, it makes complete sense because that is so true. And I was thinking about this past week. I think my wife and I were out to dinner, and I was just talking about, things I'm thinking about for my law practice, how I want to grow it to that next level, how I didn't think, in the year taking it full time, I'd be where I am. And I took that step back, and, I work with a business coach myself. So I work with this guy out of Chicago that I met at a speaker's event. Great guy, like awesome coach, who really is helping me work through a lot of the shit, I guess you would say.
Yeah. We can do that on this show.
No, but
there's no FCC here.
No,
pal.
right, exactly. So I can say the word shit. Okay, I gotta make sure.
You can do worse than that if you like to.
I'm Italian, so it might slip. But he's helped me really look at things, because one of the problems I've always had is I never look at my accomplishments. I'm a humble person, so I've won some awards recently for the legal field, and I don't necessarily think they're a big deal. But what he said is, he's like, you have to look kind of the same point as you. It's not about the objective of having that $1 million. It's not about having the award. It's a placeholder as to where you are as a person. And when he said that to me, it made me really think about it differently. Okay, I'm not saying it's great that I won this award. It's just showing where I am as a lawyer. And the same thing with
you. Is it a benchmark in your journey?
It's kind of like a benchmark. Yeah, that's what he did. So I started thinking about it. Okay, here's where I am income-wise. That's a good benchmark to have. But now I want to become a different person to get to that. It's not about the money. Right. It's about becoming that different person, because you're just a different. I'm completely different than I was 18 months ago.
And it's different, and that's such a great realization.
Yeah.
And I think but the concept is not hard to share. You're very articulate, and I'm the reason you're here is I'm extremely impressed, my friends. I'm just letting
thank you.
Right?
I appreciate that.
I wanted to have this conversation because so much of my life, the turnaround in my life, I kind of owed to reading.
Yeah.
And Roan being one of the authors, it really made an impact on me. And I always say I'm not a college graduate. I was a very average student. Didn't come from anywhere particularly great in terms of achievement, earnings, But I always say that I did it. I did it. And if I can do it, anybody can do it.
Yeah.
It's anybody.
Well, people overcomplicate success. It's effort. It's effort over time. It's really that simple. So look, I grew up in Newcastle, right? Okay. Not a wealthy family at all, single mother, raised me, like she sacrificed everything to help me along the way. And, my biggest support system, she's my hero. And my grandmother who passed away 2 years ago, almost 2 years ago, she was my other hero. Like she taught me, they made me the man I am today. My mother and my grandmother, and my two aunts as well. They were all, my grandmother's husband died before I was born. So she never remarried, raised 3 daughters. And I was surrounded by these women my whole life, and they sacrificed a lot to make me who I am. So I came from very humble backgrounds, like no money. We didn't have a lot of money growing up. I went on 2 vacations my entire childhood, but I always had that work effort. And that's what it is. It's, luckily I was born with intelligence. I got good grades, went to college, law school, I have an MBA. So I did the academic path. But if I look at one thing that's made me successful, it's I'll outwork anybody. It's the truth, and I've tried to stress that to my son. And he's he plays football, and he got it over the past couple of years because he's he goes to North Allegheny. He's going to start this year as a senior on the offensive line. He's not the biggest line, but he's a hard worker. And when people look at success, they think oh, and I even have friends that bust my balls about it. Oh, you're lucky. I'm like, no, I'm not lucky. I'm the dude that's working 18 hours a day while you're sitting there dicking around. Yeah. Like it's effort. It's success is effort over time. Because it's not like I didn't invent a rocket. I didn't invent something new.
Right.
I'm just doing basic shit, just doing a lot more than anybody else and working a lot harder. And that's really what it takes. But people don't want to put in that effort.
The harder you work, the luckier you become. And that is
the truest statement.
That's it.
Yeah. And so when my friends, bust my balls about that, I'm like, yeah, I am lucky, but I also work a ton. If you work a little bit harder, you'll probably get lucky too. You'll have those breaks.
There's nothing you can't do. And again, I don't know. I don't know where to go with this. I got so much to ask you.
Yeah.
What's your thoughts on how we have become conditioned this way? I do a radio show once a week down in Beaver County here in the morning. It started out as a real estate radio show, but it's become a variety show.
Okay.
And today we go. Sometimes we go down the rabbit hole. I got a very great producer, Matt Durzik. He's 24, so he's half my age. Okay. Less than half my age. Great guy. Mind way beyond his years. Yeah. But we had that yin and yang going on, so we'll bounce around these social issues. Okay. Today we talked about just why it seems like humans need to have, let me stop that. Why adults all of a sudden have embraced the ideas of celebrating everything. Things that were very important for children, holidays and so forth, that we as humans decided were good for children to celebrate. Now adults are adopting this. People are bragging about their birthdays coming 3 weeks before they're coming. Everybody is in a celebration mode. We need to have events to make us happy. Yeah. And I don't... What happened to us? Is it purely social media that's done that? We're just, are we fatalists and the society's so hard? I'm just looking for anything to grasp onto to be happy. If that's really how it is, I feel so terrible about that.
I think it's a couple things. I think people, happiness is internal, right? I mean, when you think about it, it comes from inside. You choose to be happy. So many people look for external validation for happiness, those events, those parties. And I think social media did play a large part in that because, 15 years ago, I didn't know what anybody else was doing. Other than my circle of people that I was involved with or they told me about, I didn't know anything anybody else had going on in their lives. Now, if I open my phone right now, I can see what everybody's doing tonight. Mm-hmm. And then it creates this, human beings. We're people watchers by nature, right? And we see other people doing things, and it's that fear of missing out. So people have this fear of missing out, and they're like, well, I got to celebrate everything.
Did you ever have that?
No. I mean, look, I like to have a good time. I don't need to celebrate my birthday for a month. It's one of those things. My birthday's August 16th. My daughter's is the 14th, and my mother's is the 12th. So I get a half day to celebrate. I know adults that are around my age that they talk about their 4th birthday celebration. I'm like, okay, you went to dinner 4 times. You went on all these trips for your birthday, for your 42nd birthday or your 37th birthday. Who gives a shit?
Yeah. Or else, why is Halloween a big thing now? I mean. Or kids are expecting gifts for Easter. That's been a recent phenomenon, right? Now, hey, I was an overly doting dad.
Yeah.
It's what we do.
Yeah, I do the same thing with my kids. So
but I wonder if that was always the best thing for my children.
Yeah.
And I will tell you, the overall theme today was simply that it was something that kind of ties in here. Like I'm trying to figure out why have we've kind of become creatures of habit. We're obviously cocooning more now, right? Because because of social media. I guess I notice kids aren't always willing to go do things together. They can be in the same room, like all texting each other, not having a formal conversation. So we're changing how we communicate and how we spend our quote unquote free time.
Yeah.
Is that making us lazier? Thus, are we now even more opposed to stepping out of our comfort zone and doing things in fear, or maybe starting a new business or starting a new club? Or does that make sense?
Yeah, no, technology has become a double-edged sword, I believe. It's created this amazing opportunity for people like us, right? You have all this equipment here. You're creating a podcast. 20 years ago, you couldn't create a show like this.
Right.
Now,
no, not at all.
Now,
not at all.
You have all this stuff. You can put it up tomorrow. People can watch it all over the world. Great thing for technology. What technology has also done is it's taken away human interaction. The ability to communicate, like you and I are sitting here having a conversation, it's become a lost art. The generation behind us, or 2 generations behind us, the people in their teens and in their 20s, I've talked to some of those people, and they can't hold a conversation for more than 3 minutes without having to look at their phone or, want to do something. They need something tangible to do. And to me, that's where technology has killed society.
Okay.
And I don't know how to get back from that. Like, it's one of those things where, and I've thought about this a lot because it is a problem. I see it, with my son. I mean, he's on technology and he has social media and he does those things, but I've also made it my mission to make sure he understands how to be a man, how to treat people with respect, how to communicate with people, because that's important. And I think it comes down to, one, parenting maybe went sideways. The whole everybody gets a trophy.
Yeah, that's part of it. Absolutely.
And I think that's created this.
We don't want our kids to have any pain.
Yeah, tough shit.
Right.
Life's painful.
Well, I think pain is a lesson.
Yes.
It's a great lesson. Reasonable amounts of pain can be a great lesson, but when you coddle any human being, whether it's an adult, adults want coddled. Now, no one wants to be. No, don't ever say anything bad about anybody, right? No, but the whole thing is, though, to get back to the motivation part of it. My thought would be, so if people are so almost afraid of the world, the more people become afraid to leave their comfort of their living room, because the big bad world's out there. Yeah. Trying to help people go earn a better life for themselves or go take chances on a new business, it has to be harder and harder and harder. Yeah. The irony is there's probably, because of technology, more opportunity than there ever has been.
Absolutely right. That's the thing. I could start a business from my phone. I could literally operate my entire life, my business life, from a laptop and my phone anywhere in the world. I have an office, but I don't need one. Right? I can do that. I think that motivation comes back to people need to feel pain. When they feel a pain, something triggers them. That's when they make a change. The problem is, because, like you said, that generation has been coddled. The one coming up has been, everybody's a winner. Here's a trophy for coming in last place. So they don't ever experience pain. So they don't even know what it looks like. So they're just living in this world of everything's okay. It's mediocre. But nothing has caused them enough pain to make a change. It's usually when they experience a extreme level of pain or something life altering is when they say, shit, something's got to be different. I've got to do something different.
For me?
I think if you look at anybody's path, right, any successful person, high achiever, something triggered them to become that. You have it inside, but something has to bring it out. You had your moment. I had my moment. Other people I know have had their moments. Those people that are stuck in that comfort, they haven't had their moment. And I can't make them have the moment. You can't make them have the moment. They have to have it themselves. Is it really comfort,
though, Rocco? Is it really comfortable? Is it really comfort when you toil for a certain firm? You obviously don't like the job for whatever reason. It could be monotony. It could be the people around you, whatever it is. And you formulate this persona of being miserable. But you come home and you lust for that TV dinner or watching the big screen or the fight's on tonight. I'm dating myself. Yeah. MMA's on tonight, or maybe whatever you're doing.
Yeah.
The game's on. They work all day in a miserable circumstance to have that lazy comfort, I call it, at home. But they'll go and they'll bitch about people that have the life they want. They'll either criticize them because they must be lucky, or there's always that. Envy's a bitch.
Yeah.
But how is that comfort? Because comfort's thrown around a lot. But I mean, to me, that's going to a job and being around people that I don't like, or feeling that I'm not producing or contributing to anything outside of monotony and collecting that predictable pay.
Yeah.
Right. That to me is not comfortable.
No.
That's not comfort to me.
No.
That's almost drudgery.
Right. To you though, but those are different people, right? Misery loves company. When you think about it, those people that are in, because I've been in organizations where, so that job I left that I was general counsel for, there were a lot of people in that company that complained about shit all the time. Complained about, I'm not making enough, this is crap, this is happening. But yet, it wasn't painful enough to make a change. They were getting paid enough to live the life they wanted to live, or for the person they were at that point in time.
Okay.
But nothing was hard enough or painful enough to make them realize, I've got to get something else. And it's those people, and I hate to categorize people, but those people that are in that spot, they're average. And I'm sorry to say, I'm not one to talk down on anybody, but I look at that, they're average performers.
But they don't have to be.
They don't have to be. No, you're right.
Settling.
They're settling. You're exact. That's the word to say. They're settling for that life. And guess what? If you're okay with that, cool. I'm not one to judge. If you want to make $50,000 a year, coach your kids' teams, go to Myrtle Beach once a summer.
For them.
Exactly.
Right,
that's fulfilling. But the problem is when they start complaining about stuff.
Oh, it's horrible. It's horrible. Envy is the scourge of society.
Yeah.
And we have a lot of that. And again, we keep coming back to social media.
Yeah.
Envy is being bred, especially in the youth, on social media.
Yes.
Brands and lifestyles, and it's all a lie. It is. Half of what you see from these people are lies.
Absolutely.
But you can't tell an impressionable 12-year-old that.
No,
you
can't.
I have kids. I got stepchildren. I've bitten my tongue so many times, whether it was Kardashians or whatever. It is what it is. And everybody's going to find their own way. So be it. But I don't. And again, I don't think there's anything wrong with being. If you're truly happy in what you're doing, that's great.
Yeah.
But if you took the people that are complaining about their job and the people around them and envying, and you really could sit them down, which is part of what you do, and pragmatically try to get them to look and write down what do you really want.
Yeah.
Obviously, you don't want this,
right?
Oh, and they say, oh well, I have a good job, and I yes, you have a good job. Yeah. You in your mind, you have a good job. Yep. You're able to pay the bills. Your family's great. All those things are great, but ultimately, you're bitching about it.
Yeah.
So other people have the things you want. If you could get them to actually write it down and stare at it for a while, you might have some hope, right? To maybe get them.
I agree. So that's, again, when I've worked with people that are kind of in that, I call it the rut. They're in this spot in life where they're just unhappy, but they don't know why they're unhappy. They just know something's not working for them. They don't know what it is. Okay. So then I'll just have them say, okay, what do you want out of life? Just write down. If you could have anything you want in life, just write it down. Where do you want to go? What do you want to buy? What do you want to do? Where do you want to work? And just start writing. People don't take the time. Writing is a powerful thing. Actually pen to paper, not typing, not on your phone.
It's cathartic, I find.
Yeah. And when people write down what they want, it triggers something in their brain, and it starts making them look at life differently. That's what I found. When people take that time, because you have to be willing to take the time and ask yourself those questions. What do I really want in life? And when they sit there and write that down, they'll start seeing things differently. Then once they do that,
you think it's hard for some people to actually write that down?
I do, because I think people have this, I shouldn't want all that stuff. I shouldn't.
Okay.
They have that. Oh, if they come from humble backgrounds, why would I write that I want a mansion or a Ferrari?
What about they have to face their laziness, maybe.
Oh yeah, well that's exactly right. That's actually a great point, because some people have a hard time doing that because they know they're not the person they need to be to have those things. So they're facing their own inadequacies. That's really what it is. It's kind of looking at, well, if I want all of these things, I know who I really am. I can't do this shit. And I've got to become someone else, but I'm too lazy to put in the work to do that. That's why they get stuck. They get stuck in this vicious cycle.
Excuses come.
That's exactly right. It's the excuses. People, it all boils down to a choice, right? You've got to decide you want something different. Same thing, the book I wrote, The Alpha Way, I talk about these 5 principles. The first principle is attitude. I said attitude changes everything. And guess what? Attitude is a choice. You get to wake up every day and decide, what do you want to be? Happy, sad, stressful, joyous, whatever you want to be. It's your choice. But people they look for external things. It's that thing's making me unhappy. That thing's making me happy. This thing's making me stressed. No, you're deciding to react in that way.
Right.
When people get that it's a choice, how your attitude is, what you want to do in life, and it's hard for people to get. But once they get that, that's when things change. But it takes a lot of work with people sometimes. It really does.
To me, it sounds like how you react to what's brought to you is a big determining factor on how you can create an attitude. Right?
Absolutely. Yeah. And look, and I even say in the book, I don't have a positive attitude every day. I don't get out of bed every morning, click my heels together and be like, this is the best day ever. I have shitty days. I have bad days. I'm stressed sometimes. But my sole goal in life is if I have a positive attitude 80% of the time, I'm doing a lot better than most of the world. And that's the goal. It's always that 80%. If I can be happy, 5 out of 7 days or 6 out of 7 days, and I let that one day, you got to let it happen. That's another part, kind of coming to a lot of this, this thing full circle, when I think where personal development goes wrong is they don't talk about the darkness. They don't talk about the darkness that we all have. Sometimes we have to embrace that.
That was a recurring theme in the material that first off, I want to commend you as well, because I like the fact that you're so real. And a lot of people that are in personal development, they'll preach, but you really don't hear their story. I listened to one of your vignettes yesterday that was talking about, how you had a difficult week and you were completely stressed out these 3 days, and you went back and reanalyzed it, and you just didn't embrace the reality of what was there. That was big with me, because I think there's a lot of preaching sometimes, but there's not a lot of practical application and self-reflection in this business.
I agree.
I think the message is definitely there, but I think it's hard to. The word hard and difficult is. Do you find that as a response to people? It's Rocco, I want to do this, but it's just so hard. I don't know what to do. It's so hard to change. It's just so hard.
I always say hard and difficult mean two different things. Difficult means it's complex. Like you have things to figure out. Hard is just, it takes effort. Like that's why I always say, becoming successful or making that change, it's not difficult. It's hard, but it's not difficult. And there's the difference, right? It's not complex. If I want to go lose weight, I go work out an hour a day and eat better. That's not difficult to do. It's hard to do because you have to change your habits and your routines, but it's not like I have to figure out all these different things. What equipment do I need to use? What do I need to eat? Like those are simple things to do. So it's not difficult, but that's where people...
You weren't a scientist trying to figure out exactly how many calories are in this pear.
Exactly. Right. I'm not trying to make my own formulations of supplements. I'm just eat better.
But those
and
two
work
words
out.
are definitely used synonymously, and they really shouldn't be.
They shouldn't be, exactly. And that always frustrates me when people say that to me, or when I work with clients, they're like, well, this is just so difficult. I'm like, it's not difficult. It's, getting up at 5 a.m. is not difficult. It's hard. It's not difficult. You set an alarm. When the alarm goes off, you get your ass out of bed. Simple thing. It's hard to do, but it's not difficult. And that's where people go wrong.
Yeah, as a doctor performing appendicitis, to most people, that's a difficult procedure.
That's a difficult thing, yes.
That's difficulty.
That's difficult. It's complexity, right?
You talk about the darkness. What do you mean, embracing the darkness and where that your industry fails?
Look, we are human beings, right? There's good and evil. There's black and white. There's the yin and the yang. There's always darkness. Everybody has darkness inside. We all have our flaws and our faults. I know I have plenty of faults as a human, as a man, as a father, as a husband. I'm not perfect by any means. Sometimes we forget about that, and we try and be so focused on all this hokey, positivity and affirmations, when we forget about there's that whole other piece of us, this darkness. And it's interesting because I had this discussion a couple weeks ago talking about, sometimes you have to ask people, you know, when they say you got to find your why, right? Well, what's going to get you out of the bed and make you happy? Okay, that works for some people. Sometimes you got to ask people, what about the darkness? You know, what's keeping you up at night? What's making you sick to your stomach? That'll make a person change. When they get into the darkness and embrace it and understand that, okay, yeah, it'd be nice to be able to do everything I want to do every day, but why am I miserable right now? And that's like coming to those people that are in that job that we were just talking about, that they're miserable. They don't look into the darkness. I think if they get there and start looking really internally at that dark space, they figure things out. You know, I did it myself. You know, I know there are many things, you know, many dark pieces of me that I think, you know, pulled on me for a while. I had to come to terms as a man to just say, that's who I am, and embrace them, and just let those be part of me, and try, instead of trying to change them and be this, like you said, I'm real. I tell people this shit. I tell, because that's life. That's human nature. There is a whole dark side to every person. You have it. I have it. Everybody has it. People need to embrace it and understand it. Sometimes it's the darkness that makes people change, not the positivity, not find your why, like the Simon Sinek thing. It's find your darkness, and do you want to get out of it? That can sometimes make the change.
Story I once heard where there was a woman who was a stay-at-home mom.
Okay.
Kids grew up and were out. And every time that she didn't have quite enough money for groceries or some other matter, she would go to her husband, and he would, you know, for lack of a better phrase, scold her.
Okay.
And she got tired of doing it after a while. And everything was just negative, and you spend too much money. And one day she just sat up in bed and she says, I am never going to have to ask another human being for money again.
Yeah.
And 7-10 years later, she's in charge of a multi-million-dollar company. But that was her moment, having to ask for money, and the way she was treated when she did so was her little moment.
That was her darkness.
It might not be the darkest of dark, but that was a trigger for her,
right?
And in a place where it was a bad place for her,
right? But
that was a powerful enough trigger that she did something about it.
Yeah, I mean, take that story as an example, right? If you ask her, okay, what is your why? You know, why do you want to go out and do this? She's not going to be able to find that. Her why was the darkness. I don't ever want to have to feel that way, where I have to ask somebody for anything. Like, she got in touch with that dark side of the equation.
Got it.
And that made her move. It wasn't about just having this business and making millions of dollars. It was, I don't want to have to ask anybody again. That's the difference. And that's when I talk about darkness, it's those little things. It's that other side of the equation where people don't always look.
Would you agree that most people can't get motivated by material things? Probably some, maybe.
Yeah. I mean, I think material things can motivate people to an extent.
Okay.
It'll get you so far. Again, motivation has to come from within, right? I love material things. Don't get me wrong. Like, I like cars and watches, but that's not what motivates me.
Okay.
You know, my motivation, they're nice things to have. I look at them as markers on the road, where if I accomplish a goal, okay, I'll get that.
Benchmarks.
You know, exactly. They're benchmarks.
Yeah.
My motivation is I want to make a difference and leave a legacy.
Right.
And it came from internal.
Right.
When I was younger, obviously, coming out of law school, I'm like, I want to make a shit ton of money.
It comes with age, right?
Yeah, it does.
But not for everybody.
No, you're right.
People never get it.
Some people never get it. You're exactly right. It's wisdom. It's wisdom, right? It's, you and I have both taken the journey of personal development. We're growing as people. We're learning. We've developed that wisdom. Those people that never grow never understand that concept.
Yeah.
So they keep using that material thing as the motivator.
Just a carrot.
Yeah, but that changes all the time. Someone has the next better car, the nicer house, the better clothes.
Explain it to my children. It's always going to be that way.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, you're going to get the, kids like young guys that like Porsches and Lamborghinis, which when we were younger, maybe I don't know, a Toyota would have been nice. I mean, you see what I mean? It's so.
My Honda Civic was like my dream car. I had a 92 red Honda Civic two-door. I thought it was the sports car of all sports cars. Like a V2. I mean, it was terrible, but it was.
I know, but the exotic. I mean, because social media is off the rails, everybody goes right to the top of the food chain.
Yes.
I mean, my son can tell you what a McLaren is.
Right.
I mean, I wouldn't have a clue.
No.
I didn't. When I heard the word Lamborghini as a kid, I didn't know what the hell that was. I heard it. Didn't know what the hell it was. But I guess the point is, and I always tell them, I said, hey, you get your first job and, you buy your first car.
Yeah.
You know, even if you were to save up and get a used Porsche or BMW, this is a foolish decision, but young kids do that, right?
Yeah, right. Exactly.
It's never going to be enough.
No.
If you buy into the fact that you have to have the best, the latest, or you're looking at what others around you are doing, you're never going to. It's so unfulfilling. And I can speak from experience. I had little bits of that in my life. I'm sure we all did as we went along.
100%. Same way. And it was, you have to take that step back, because it was. I was, when I came out of school, I was, come out of law school making $100,000. I'm like, the most I ever made prior to that was like $7 an hour.
Right.
Thinking $100,000, like, holy shit, like, what do I do with all this money?
Pay raise, pal.
That's a big pay raise. So, we're going to the bar, we're buying bottles of wine, like just doing stupid shit.
Yeah.
And it wasn't fulfilling.
Yeah.
It was just, why am I doing this? It was just, I was trying to impress people I didn't really give a shit about.
Right.
And
why do we do that as humans?
It's human nature. And I think, like you said, as you get older and wiser, you learn different things, and you understand that it's not about that. I had to kind of take that step back and say, okay, these things are cool and I like them. They're not what motivates me.
Right.
Motivating to me is making that difference, leaving that legacy, build. Like I look at, if I'm looking at my spot in life right now, I'm a solo practitioner lawyer that is building a firm that's probably can be the size of one that has 3-4 lawyers.
Right.
Working myself. Right. That's the legacy I'm building. I'm building something different. I came out and I didn't do the billable hour. I did flat fee stuff. I kind of changed the model of a law firm. That's my legacy and what I'm trying to make that difference in. That motivates me.
Okay.
Yes, it comes with money. I get to do cool shit and go cool places and buy cool things, but those things don't motivate me. They're collateral to what I'm doing.
Sure.
What's motivating me is building that thing that people said I couldn't build.
Right.
And doing that thing that people said I couldn't do. That's the motivator.
Yeah, and I think that's where maybe more than any time in modern humanity now, the material carrot is the heavy carrot.
Yeah.
The conceptual carrot, or maybe the charitable carrot, is marginalized right now.
Absolutely.
Yes, and TV, social media is probably driving there. That's a shame. That's a big shame. And I can just speak from experience. I'm sure you can too. The material acquisitions things that I thought I really wanted along the way, the trinkets, so to speak, I say, were completely unfulfilling to the point where I was a knucklehead. I would give stuff away. I probably should have tried to resell some of my stuff, but I'd have a friend who would dig it more than me. I'd give it to them. Yeah. Guitars, whatever it was. Yeah. It was not, it was almost a detriment in a way.
Yeah. Yeah, I know exactly.
Until you figure out that happiness really is about relationships and learning to enjoy what you have.
Yeah. Being in the moment, enjoying, experiences. Mm-hmm. That's what I always say, and again, we all get caught up in that materiality of things, and I still like nice things. I like them a lot more in the past, but again, with wisdom comes, it's about experience, because everything can be taken away tomorrow. Mm-hmm. I could lose everything tomorrow. The one thing I can't lose is my intelligence, my drive, my motivation. Mm-hmm. And when that motivation comes from internal, that's why I know I can rebuild it. If everything was taken away from me tomorrow, I can rebuild it.
And that's a good feeling.
Yeah,
that's a good feeling.
Exactly.
I never had that till I was an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
Really?
You don't get it until you're an entrepreneur. Like being in a corporation or being in I love how people think they talk about job security. Mm-hmm. If you work for someone else, there is no job security.
Right.
They can get rid of you tomorrow. Where's your job? Yeah. Building a skill set as an entrepreneur, that's job security. I know that if the bottom falls out of my life tomorrow, I can wake up the next day and do exactly what I've already done and rebuild it. I developed that as an entrepreneur, not working for someone else. Mm-hmm. So that's true job security. People think being an entrepreneur is this huge risk and, there's no guarantee of anything. Yeah, there is a guarantee. There's a guarantee that once I figure shit out, I'll always be able to do what I'm doing.
Because you worked harder on yourself.
Exactly.
Your skill set.
Yes.
That's the great advice I received. One of the first nuggets I ever took out of personal development was the concept: work harder on yourself than you do on your job.
Yes.
Now, a lot of folks would say, well, I don't want to slack off my job. No, that's not what it says.
Exactly.
If you're a high performer at your job for some company, then you owe it to yourself to be a higher performer.
Exactly.
Building your own skill set, right?
100% agree.
Is that right?
Yeah, 100%. But people don't do that. They go into these jobs and they do the job. They don't work on themselves. They work on the job, do what they have to do to get that 8 hours, that 10 hours in and collect that paycheck. And they wonder why they never get promoted, they never get raises. And I always ask the questions, what have you done for yourself? What have you done to grow as the person, or to become the person that deserves that raise, that deserves that new position? People don't get that because, like you said, they're thinking, well, I don't want to take time away from the job.
They're just putting in time.
Yeah, I mean, that's it. That's exactly it. They're putting in time. If you want more out of life, coming back to that same point we talked about earlier, if you want more, you have to become more. And you don't do that by not working on yourself. It's that simple.
Yeah. There's no question about it.
Yeah.
But again, I come back to my original point to you. You go out and you're a motivational speaker. It's one of the things you do. Getting people to step outside of that real comfy circumstance that they pretend that they're involved with, but are so dissatisfied because they bitch about it constantly.
Right.
Getting them to take that step has gotta be hard, man.
It is.
And harder today probably than it ever has been.
It is, and you have to touch their pain point. And I always say, when I go and speak, to be it a small group or a large group, I always say to myself, if I can change one person's life in that moment, that's all that matters. And I can tell you this, that every single talk I've given, at least 5 to 6 people have come up to me afterward and said, that changed my perspective. That's all that matters.
That's good to hear.
So I can't change the entire room. I know that. I know going in, if I'm speaking in front of 100 people, 500 people, or 10 people, I'm not going to convince everybody.
Right.
I know I can convince some of them. I spoke at the state penitentiary a couple months ago in March to a bunch of the guys that were in there, and there was, I think, 40 some inmates.
Wow. What was that like?
You know what it was? I had no idea what to expect.
Yeah.
So they reached out to me. We agreed. Signed a contract, and they didn't really tell me what to talk about. They said they just need some motivation. Okay, well, this is great.
Motivated inmates.
Well, I'm
curious.
No, it was interesting. So I didn't know what to expect. I've never been in a jail. State penitentiary.
Thank goodness.
Right. No, I mean, let's knock on wood. So I go there, and I talk about my book, and that's always a good path for me because there's the principles of being successful. But I got in that room and saw these guys, and I made it an engaging conversation. I didn't just lecture. I said, talk to me, ask me questions along the way.
Okay.
So as I was talking, I realized that a lot of these guys just had one moment of bad luck, and they're there. And it hit me to the core. And it made me realize how quick life, like one guy that was there, he was an EMT, super, medical professional. He had like 3 DUIs.
Wow.
And he got his 4th one unintentionally, and he's there. And now he has to restart everything over. He lost all of his licenses, has to redo everything. And what was interesting is when I was talking to these guys, he was kind of questioning life. Not questioning life, but just saying, what do I do? What do I do? He kept saying, like, what do I do? I've lost everything. I'm here now. What do I do? And I looked, and I got really close, and I looked at him. I said, look, you can have the choice to keep asking that question, or when you get out, do something about it. I said, it's your choice. You can sit there and live in this misery, but it doesn't do anything, or you can make the choice. It's your choice, how you want to live the rest of your life. Think about the day you get out here as the new chapter.
Right.
And it clicked for a couple of those guys because no one really talks to them about that. It's very hard inside, right?
I can't imagine.
And they have books, and they read, and they were complaining about different things. And there was one guy that kept challenging me the whole time because he was talking about, well, I want to learn how to do this. And they don't teach that here. They have like courses for the guys. They can learn different things about, how to get different skills for when they get out.
Sure.
And he kept honing on this one thing. And he kept just challenging me. I said, okay. I said, but listen, so they don't have it here, and it won't come here. What's your alternative? You can get pissed off and keep having this discussion, or you can say, I'm going to learn it a different way. Instead of having a course, I'm going to buy some books or ask them to get me some books and read. And it's just getting them to change their perspective. And the point of this is at the end of that talk, 15 guys lined up afterwards, came up to me and talked to me and thanked me for what I said in the perspective, and I gave them hope. Now, I had no idea. I'm a normal dude that just came in, like, I was I had some fear going in there. I didn't know what to expect. 40 inmates. I didn't know what they were in there for.
Right.
But to have these guys come up to me afterwards and say that I gave them hope.
Yeah. That's powerful.
It was. And it was out of all the talks I've done, standing on a TEDx stage and doing these things, that was the most powerful talk.
Wow. That one, huh?
That one, because and it was completely unscripted. It was just me but because I knew that these guys who were in the deepest hole of life, right? You're in prison.
Yeah.
You don't have a life. The life is not yours. Came up to me and said, I now have hope. That was powerful. And that made me realize that I am making a difference in what I'm doing. And it was what was even more interesting, and which really, really hit me, is there was a gentleman in the audience. He came out to me last after everybody. And I grew up with him.
Oh my.
He came out to me. He's like, I saw your name, on the speaker thing. He's like, I had to come. I didn't want to talk to you beforehand because I just didn't want to throw you off. And he told me his name. This was a kid that I hung out with his younger brother, and he was the older brother, phenomenal baseball player. Like, idolized this kid. He was a great ball player, wanted to play baseball like he did.
Right.
He's in prison. And he made some bad choices, and it was just interesting how life happened so quick. This was a kid I idolized as, third, fourth grader.
Sure.
He was a good ball player. I'm like, I love baseball. I played baseball. I wanted to be as good as him. And now here I am talking to him while he's in jail. Talk about full circle, and just, it really hit me in the gut. And I remember driving home. It was up in Mercer County. I drove home and it was like this emotional thing.
I bet.
Because someone you grew up with, that you idolize as a kid, is now in jail for making some bad choices.
Out of there.
Yeah.
He's
not for a long time. He's got probably 5-10 years left.
Wow.
And I'm thinking, it's crazy how quick life changes, and people don't make the most of life. And that's, my point of this is life can change on a dime, can end on a dime. So if people out there listening are unhappy or miserable, or something is not going their way, you have to make a change, because you may not get the opportunity to do that.
Right.
People need to understand you have to change. You have to make the decision, because that chance may never come back. It's as simple as that.
Yeah, it's the fragility of life.
But
we all say that, we acknowledge it, but it's still hard for even all of us to to keep that in mind when we're doing something. I just think, to me, and I come back to this, and it's harsh, but technology has made us exist in lazy comfort.
Yeah, no, you're right. It has. And
you say that to someone who, and anyone listening to this, I want to make sure I'm very clear as the host of the show. This is the expert here, not me. I wanted this guy so bad on my show because I've never been able to talk about this, and I took a lot of heat, as I'm sure you can relate to the following. When I started really diving into self-development, my friends thought I was nuts. My wife at the time thought I was nuts because I really immersed myself. Yeah. I was getting so much out of it, and it gave me the teachings of it, and then what I did gave me the courage to get out, to do my own thing.
Exactly.
The guitar business, whatever it was. And once I started getting some traction, it was a life-changing moment for me. I realize that can't be the case for everybody, but still trying to do something new, embracing the fear, even in a small way. A buddy of mine wanted to learn tennis. He's he's kind of an overweight guy, pretty obese. All I said to him is, look, I'm not a tennis player. I'll go try to play with you.
Yeah, right.
I said, but my advice would be, why don't you try to get yourself, at least drop some pounds. Yeah. Try to think of yourself as an athlete, and maybe you can play tennis. And it's exactly what he did. I saw him, it must have been 6 or 7 months later, he dropped like 80 pounds. And he goes, hey, I'm taking lessons every week in Mount Lebanon, tennis lessons. And he goes, I love it. I'm not good, but I'm good at it. For me, I'm good at it, right? Yeah. I'm getting better. That was so cool to me because it was the one time that I could actually say, wow, I look back on just telling this guy to embrace the fear. Right?
You made a difference.
He did it. I just gave him a suggestion.
But you were the catalyst.
Yeah,
like, look at it that way.
My words were. Yeah, that was exciting though. You must love that part. That's what you do for a living. Part of what you do for a living.
Yeah, it really is. Being that catalyst of change, giving people that hope or that push they need, or just hearing something no one else has said.
Yeah.
When one of the big things that I talk about when I talk is the vulnerability. in the failures I've had and the things I've done wrong. And, people expect me to get up on stage and talk about, all these amazing things I've done. And when I get into that, it hits home with people because, they're like, well, it's relatable. I've had those things. So if you've failed that many times and are where you are, I can keep doing. I can keep going. And it's
a great example.
People don't want to talk about it. I remember I posted a video on Facebook. This was a few months ago where I was talking about like the self-doubt I have, as a person. Like it was a clip from the one talk I did out in California. And I said on stage, I doubt myself every single day. Like I have self-doubt every day. And there are many days as a lawyer, I think to myself, I don't know what the hell I'm doing, but that's a risk I take as an entrepreneur, and I figure it out.
Right.
Doesn't make the self-doubt go away. And when I shared that clip on Facebook, I had at least 20 people message me, like friends of mine from college that just know me, like acquaintances. They all said kind of the same theme. Wow, I would have never guessed you felt that way, but it makes me feel so good that you were willing to admit that.
Yeah. I get that.
To me, it was like it was powerful because it's who I am. I'm not perfect. I doubt myself all the time, but people want to hear that. And when you get into personal development, like you said before, not a lot of people talk about that.
The people that are being spoken to by motivational speakers, they look oftentimes at high achievers as being, if they can kind of get away from the luck aspect, and look at it objectively, a lot of them still believe that they never make any mistakes.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Right? It's delusion. It's almost they're delusional in believing that.
100%.
More mistakes. You've made more mistakes.
But you know what? And the reason why I wrote the book I wrote, I kind of for that same reason. So personal development fan, right? We read all these books.
Right.
I always say they're always written by the guy or girl at the top of the mountain. Like, hey, like I lived in my sister's couch. Now I'm a multimillionaire. And people think, wow, like that's amazing. I say I wrote this book from the middle of the mountain. Like, hey, I'm halfway up the mountain, made a lot of mistakes along the way. I'm not writing for everybody. I'm writing for those people that are coming up the mountain behind me. I've learned some stuff.
Yeah. I
think these things I've known or have learned and know now can help you get to where I am. That's why I wrote the book. It was more of a basic guidebook to get halfway up the mountain. When I get to the top of the mountain, I'll write another one.
Sure.
But that I saw this gap in the market. Like there's these people that are talking about, it's unrelatable.
It is unrelatable. They can't. The reader can't get there. It seems too stratospheric almost.
That's exactly right.
I'll say this. Social media has created some motivational monsters. I haven't dived deep in any of them. I'm still rooted in old school stuff, reading.
Yeah.
But Grant Cardone, whatever he's doing, he's got a persona. He's an entertainer almost now.
Yes.
If it works for people, God bless them.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of people that really could use the help can't reach him because his lifestyle that he puts in your face constantly is in their mind almost unattainable.
Yeah, it's that, and it's also he makes it. And the same thing with Gary Vee. Like I love Gary Vee. They're make
different though. They're different.
They're different, but they always make it sound so easy. Well, just if you have a job, you get done at 5, work till 2 in the morning. Well, what about people that have kids and have responsibilities? They don't think about those things, and that's kind. I love Gary Vee, Grant Cardone. I like some of his stuff. He's just he is what exactly
He's
he is what he is.
I think now.
He made his money selling courses. Now he's buying real estate. So it's he's kind of done this full
in
circle.
Reverse.
Right. Exactly. That's exactly right. He did all this stuff about sales training, and now he's buying the real estate. But it's unrelatable. And I like I said, I'm a huge Gary Vee fan, and I love what he talks about.
He's a little more relatable though. I think image wise, isn't he?
He's the everyman. Absolutely.
He projects to be.
He projects to be. But then you also when he talks about creating content, he has 5 guys following him around creating his content.
Yeah.
I've tried to do that before. For me to create one video to put on YouTube, like a 2-minute clip, takes me like 4 hours.
Absolutely.
And it's just like I don't have time for this shit.
Right.
So they make it sound so simple.
Sure.
And it makes it almost unattainable, unrelatable.
And people get frustrated. They
Exactly.
buy the courses and they quit because. Who have you in your journey? Who have you admired? The self-development people that have given you, besides Jack Canfield, great author.
Yeah, I mean he's one.
Chicken Soup for the Soul was his first, I think.
That might have been his first book. Yeah,
I'm dating myself. Sorry.
No, that is his first book, I think. Then the Success Principles. So he was one. Jim Rohn, obviously. Tony Robbins, I've always
Jim
liked.
trained Tony, you know.
Yeah. So I've always liked him.
All the firewalking. Jim said, I didn't train him how to do the firewalking. All the knowledge stuff, I had a say in that, but that firewalking stuff was not me.
No, it's so him, and then I read a lot of Warren Buffett. Not from a motivational standpoint, but just his mind as a business person. And you can pull a lot from the way he did. He was very practical and pragmatic in the way he approached investing, that you can kind of take that, with life. Same thing with Tim Ferriss, I like. Tim Ferriss.
I love his podcast.
Yeah, he's great, and he's just that guy. The 4-hour work week. It makes sense when you read it. He's talking about spending.
Did it make sense to you? Because it didn't make sense to me the first time I read it. I can't say it looked almost like a novelty to me.
Yeah, I don't take it as a literal 4-hour work week.
Okay.
It's spend 80% of your time on the 20% that make you the most money kind of thing.
Concept.
And I look at it, in any business, right? There's, 20% of your customers make 80% of your money.
Right.
Typically. So you want to focus there. And it's really about focus and efficiency. Right. And that's why I like the Tools of Titans he did. Yeah. I like all of his books.
It's a great read.
He's just I would say he's a personal development / productivity researcher.
No question.
An implementer.
He's on a
that's
mission.
What he does.
Yeah, he's fascinated, I think, by high achievers and how they did it.
Yeah, and like in hacking life.
Yeah, hacking like good one.
And I love that. I started getting into like the brain hacking and all of, like the supplementation and intermittent
intermittent fasting. Yeah,
and it works. Like people don't get like there's reasons why people talk about this shit because it actually works. And so those were some of the people coming up that I read a lot. I'm trying to think who else. I have stacks of books. Brian Tracy's the other big one.
Yeah.
Change Your Thinking, Change Your Life is one of the best books I read. Outside of the Success Principles, it's kind of a lot of the same principles.
He's one of the most accomplished, I think, personal development people ever.
John Maxwell's the other one. I have a ton of his,
right? John lasts 15 years or so.
10
years?
But he has like 50 some books.
Yeah, his output's high.
He just recycles a lot of the books. I feel like
that's the knock on the industry, though, isn't it? To some degree.
It is, because there's only so much, right? There's only so much you can talk about. He might have 5 or 6 books that have the word failure in the title.
Right.
It's like, okay, we get it. Fail forward, keep going, don't quit. Like it's the same principles, and you're right. A lot of the stuff, even in the book I wrote, it's not like I created this shit out of thin air. It's stuff I've learned.
How you assemble it, though, and how
exactly.
It's the story.
It's the story and the assembly of the information that resonates with people.
Yeah,
that's really what it is. But too many people just, I feel like, copycat.
Yeah.
There's books I read that was almost the same book as I just read.
Yeah.
Kind of, that's the stuff that irritates me. If people put their different spin on it or, analyze it and regurgitate it in a different way, I'm cool with that. Because there's only so much information.
Well, I think that's where Gary Vee's niche is. He will embrace what society is today. Like he wants to not only motivate you, I think, but he also wants to show you maybe some practical ideas based upon social media. That's his thing.
No, I love that fact about him. Like he shows people how to make money. When he talks about like the whole garage sale stuff, he actually goes out and does it. And I love watching those videos because it's super interesting. He'll go find a toy that he resells on eBay.
But it's an old concept. I mean, the guitar business for me started where I was buying and selling guitars on eBay.
Yeah.
I'd hold them for a month. I'd buy them cheap. I'd take new pictures. I'd shine them up, let them cool off a month so people forget about them.
Yeah.
And I would resell them. It wasn't just no one else was doing it then. I was one of the first movers. First mover advantage maybe. But it took off from there. But that's an old organic concept of buying cheap and selling high, which you do in stocks, which you do in everything else,
exactly.
Right?
Absolutely.
It was just being done on the internet, which was that time new.
Yeah. Absolutely.
It's an old concept, though.
And the same thing, I mean, again, how many new concepts are there in business when you think about it, right? I mean, economics is economics.
Not many.
Marketing's marketing. Relationships are relationships. It's technology's new.
Right.
But end all be all, I always say every business boils on the relationships between two human beings. I can create the best technology or the best product. I can find the cure for cancer. If I'm a shithead and you don't like me, you're not going to invest in it. You're not going to buy it because it's really about people. I've worked with startup companies when they're trying to go talk to investors. And one of the first things I always tell them,
fascinating.
It's interesting. And I always tell them, look, you've got to be likable. Don't come out of the gates like you have this technology that the world owes you something because you've created this amazing thing. No one gives a shit. There's 50 other guys just as smart as you that can create the same thing you did. Be likable. Get people to like who you are and why you're doing what you're doing. That's how you'll find success. But people just, and again, I've dealt with a lot of people from, very well-ranked schools, we'll say.
Sure.
And they come out and they just think because they came from that school, people will give them money. I'm like, nope, it's not how it works. You've got to be a human being.
Yeah.
You've got to be relatable. People have to like you, and you have to have a good idea. People miss the first part.
I read one time that, and correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah.
But investors can sense passion.
Absolutely.
And if they feel that they're okay with being sold.
Yeah.
But they want to be sold in a genuine way. Is that pretty much correct?
Yeah. I mean, I tend to say investors will bet on the jockey more than the horse.
Huh.
If the jockey has passion, they'll be able to ride any horse.
Got it.
But if the horse is good and the jockey's a piece of shit, I'm not going to invest in it.
Yeah.
And it really comes down to, and it's because think about the best businesses out there. Think about Facebook, right? Zuckerberg had a passion. He was passionate about what he built. He didn't monetize it for how many years?
Right.
Now it's everywhere.
Yeah.
It's the world. Facebook is the infrastructure.
Yeah. Of the operating world, it pretty much
It
is.
really
Yeah.
is.
Yeah.
It really is. I mean, they bought Instagram, which is the other piece of the infrastructure.
Right.
So when you think about that, it's those people had passion. Steve Jobs had passion.
Yeah, I think I always go to him because of just, and I hope someday someone writes the definitive real story of his life.
Yeah.
Because there's quirkiness and all. I'd love to see it and hear it, but talk about someone with passion.
Yeah.
The money was an afterthought. I think in the end he was still like in a 1 or 2 bedroom apartment, and material things were not important to him.
Yeah.
I think
No.
most of his life.
Look at Warren Buffett. The same thing. He still lives in the same house he's lived in since the 60s in
Drove
Nebraska.
the old Oldsmobile. And,
Yeah, I mean, he still drinks the same Coke every day, goes to the same place for lunch. The guy has more money than God,
Right.
and he doesn't care about those things. And what you find is the people that are successful at that level, money is always the afterthought.
Yeah.
Something else is driving them.
Yeah.
And
Purpose.
Purpose, exactly. People have to find
Our
that
goal.
purpose.
All
The
right.
purpose, the passion, that thing that drives you internally. That's where people get stuck. They get to a certain level in life, right? They'll hit a certain level of success. If they haven't found the internal driver, the internal fuel, that's all they're going to get. They're going to get to here. When they find this internal driver, that's when they get to that next level.
Stratosphere.
But people sometimes just stop at that certain level. They're like, okay, I'm good. I don't necessarily need to make any more. I don't know what to do next because they don't have a passion. It was just about the money. When you find the passion, it changes everything.
And how about this?
Yeah.
I have a dear friend who is a high achiever,
Okay.
works for a corporation, has dabbled entrepreneurship. He's done very well. His father, one of the most honest and genuine people imaginable,
Okay.
elder in the church, was a union carpenter for the 28 years, 30 years, whatever it is. Took his pension. His wife had stayed home. They'd raised the kids, and is one of the happiest men alive.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. Found a way to have a little summer home down by the beach. Just this nice, comfortable life, but very non-materialistic, but extremely happy.
Yeah.
So I had these conversations with his son, and I like how can but it's such a thing to admire.
Yeah.
But I think it's so rare.
Yeah, it is. I mean, remember that's a different generation too. So that's
Okay.
that's a totally different generation. I mean,
Okay.
that's that generation of they just worked their ass off.
Okay.
And they said, I'm going to work for 30 years at a company. I'm going to get that pension, and I'm going to be happy. And that's it. Happiness to them meant something different.
This guy did it.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like that. I mean, and that's the thing. Like you're 100%
He really
right.
did it.
And that was their driver. Their happiness was different. And look, not everybody is like us. If you put 10 people in a room, there's 3 of us that are high achieving entrepreneurs.
Okay.
The other 7 are they're the workers. They're, out of those 10, there's 3 that are the high achievers, I believe. There's probably 4 in the middle that are, they'll make a good living and live a good life. And then there's the 3 that really don't give a shit about anything.
Right.
And that's kind of how I think the bell curve operates. But
I think we need them. But we need them all.
Yeah,
society needs them all.
Yeah, you have to have the worker bees. You have to, and it's just some people fall into those different categories.
Right.
That doesn't mean you have to stay there.
Right.
I think people stay there by choice.
Right.
You know, when I
no question.
Yeah,
no question about it.
It's a choice that they chose to stay there. You know, there's a land of opportunity. Nothing was handed to me. I didn't come for money. No one said, "Here's $100,000 to go start your business." Everything I'd done was from scratch.
Yeah, and you're in America, the land of, I mean, all the money's here.
Yeah, exactly.
All the opportunities here.
Anybody can
all
do
the
it.
Education's here.
Exactly, but people just choose to stay. It's that bottom three. Those are people that make the choice to stay in the bottom three. The middle four go one way or the other.
Right.
Some people kind of fall back down. Other people make the choice to move up. The people at the top, once they're there, they don't go down.
Got it.
They stay there.
Yeah.
They struggle, and they may have their ups and downs. They may dip down. You know, have that bankruptcy or have that one bad thing that goes wrong, or the one company fail, but they get back to the top. Because once you've got there, it's hard to go back. Yeah. I mean, I think there's a statistic that says once a person makes $100,000 a year, they'll never make less than $100,000 a year.
Right.
Because it's just that threshold they cross. They know how to do it. You know, but it's that arbitrary number that people put as, well, if you make six figures, you're wealthy, and really you're not.
No.
But people think that, and it's just you get to that arbitrary level. I think there's just different levels in life. Once you cross that threshold, you very rarely go back.
Is money just a benchmark?
I think in certain respects it is, but I think it's also what you need to survive, right? But people do use money as a benchmark. People use money as how they keep score. I think money means something different.
Score, that's a good way to put it.
Yeah, I mean, it means something different to everybody.
Right.
Your definition of money and my definition of money might be completely different.
Right.
It might motivate us the same way, but how we look at it and how, you know, it may be completely different. You know, I look at money as a means to freedom.
Yeah, I love that. That's exactly how I look at
That's
it.
it. That's really what it is.
Because I think in the end we're craving freedom. And maybe most human beings are craving freedom too, right? They might not be taking steps to get that.
Yes.
But
well, that's the thing. It's interesting. So have you ever done a DISC assessment?
Oh yes.
So I
just
did
recently I did another one.
Yes.
I'm always the same, damn it. It never changes.
I did too, and I hadn't done one in a while. I forgot what I was, but you know, I'm a very high DI. The C is really low. Like I'm a reckless risk taker.
Yeah.
And what that means, and when I kind of dug deeper, and because this guy that I'm working with, he has this whole other assessment that kind of attaches to it. I don't like rules or institutions. And so there are people that are okay. Like one of my best friends, you know, he's an accountant. He likes rules.
Naturally.
You know, we literally had this discussion last night.
Perfect field for that.
I mean, he's a great guy, love him, like a brother, you know, smart guy. But we had this discussion last night. Like he just likes his rules. He's an accountant, right? He likes this box. I'm completely opposite. I don't like institutions. I don't like rules. I'll make my own rules based upon my own morals. Just because society says I should have these morals or these rules I should follow, I'm going to follow them. If they gel with my own internal morals, okay, cool. If they don't, I'm going to make my own rules. That's why I left corporate America. That's why I do the things I do. That's why I question everything. You know, I have viewpoints on marriage that are different from people. You know, I read an article, and I have this debate with my wife all the time, and she doesn't like the debate, but there was a great article in GQ magazine. It had to be like 10 or 15 years, probably 10 years ago. And it said marriage should be a 3-year contract that's renewable. And I said, that's a brilliant idea. and not because you want to get divorced or anything. It's when you know something has a definitive end but can be renewed, you work harder at it. You know what I mean?
Like an athlete.
Exactly. That's great analogy. It's when an athlete knows their contract is up, they perform better. Marriage, I think, would operate the same way. Now, I don't think people are going to agree with me, and there's probably going to be a lot of people that maybe watch this or are like, this dude's crazy, but it was an interesting article, and it made me think. And because when you think about an institution like marriage, right, who created it? Okay, it was in the Bible, right? But
it's a man-made.
Correct. I mean,
society made it.
Right. It's a societal rule.
Right.
be it right or wrong. I mean, we all follow that. If you're married, you kind of follow these rules. But
who the hell did invent that?
Right. I mean, it's biblical times, and I get that. But there's these rules in society that say you're supposed to do these things.
Yeah, I get it.
And I've just never been one I question everything, is what I would say. I'm a rule questioner.
Yeah, so you go under the premise that like laws are just kind of guidelines and rules are just merely suggestions.
Yeah. I mean, yes, I would say that to an extent, where there are certain laws that are put in place to protect the welfare of people.
Sure.
So you follow those, but there are other things that certain rules I think are meant to be questioned.
Well, they're arbitrary. They're man-made.
Right. Well, exactly. Like that's why and I don't have to talk politics in any way, shape, or form, but I used to lean very Republican conservative. I think I've become more libertarian over time on the social side, because my position is, who am I to tell you that my morals are better than yours?
Right.
I'm fiscally conservative. I'm going to give the government my tax money. I want to know where it's going. But I'm no better or worse than anybody.
Right.
My morals should not be held above someone else's. So I think there's just, that's the way I look at it. It's, and that's changed over the years. My perception and my perspective has shifted, but that's kind of how I look at it. Rules are an interesting thing, and it's coming from a lawyer, right? I mean, we're taught that there are these rules, but we're also taught to zealously argue for our clients,
right?
And I always joke when people say, "Oh, lawyers are liars." I'm like, no, we just manipulate the facts in our favor.
Yeah, what are facts anyways? Are they arbitrary? I mean, some may be.
No, I mean we can get
interpretation.
Right, we can go into a very deep rabbit hole talking about this, but it's the truth. I mean, there are certain things that I think everything can be questioned. There's a different viewpoint on everything. There's 50 ways to look at a situation.
Well, we can't stop as a species. Stop questioning everything. The moment we stop questioning, we're in trouble.
Yeah, like I get very frustrated with blindly following rules, or people that blindly follow the rules if you want to follow them, fine, but question them before you follow them. Understand why the rule is in place, and does it make sense to follow? Too many people just say, "That's what I'm supposed to do."
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah, I good advice given to me many years ago, which has generally served me well. Generally was it's easier to ask forgiveness than ask permission.
No, I mean that is yes, great rule, because it's in certain respects. Look, I don't want to harm anybody.
No,
I don't want to do anything to cause anybody else pain or suffering or heartache. But when it comes to me and rules that they say, I question them. It doesn't mean I'm not going to follow them.
Right.
But I want to make sure that rule is aligned with my own internal guidance system.
Right.
I've built my internal guidance based upon my own morals, not what society has told me, my parents have told me, my religion has told me. It's what I've developed over time.
Most humans don't do that.
No, they kind of follow what they're told, right? In part of my life, I did. I went to college, so I was supposed to go to college. Now, it got me to where I am, so I'm glad I did, but right now, there are certain people that shouldn't go to college.
Absolutely.
But their parents tell them you should go to college. That's just what you're supposed to do. In my opinion, is don't piss the money away.
That's what you're supposed to do.
Exactly. Who says that? Exactly.
Rule?
Who wrote the rule? Who wrote the rule that that's what you're supposed to do? I hear people say that when they talk about marriage. Well, that was just, I've been dating her for so long, that was just what I'm supposed to do next. Why? I mean, why? There's certain things that there's all those arbitrary rules that if you trace them back, no one knows who created them.
They're just here.
They're just here, and people blindly follow them.
But then again, so you have that. They blindly follow, but what happens is when you blindly follow societal's accepted things you're supposed to do, you end up middle-aged working for some company in a job that's unfulfilling and something you don't probably even like every day. And then people like yourself who were trying to get them to think outside of, or get them to see beyond, or put the envy aside of others and say, hey, you can do it too. It just seems harder and harder to get people to do that the more society goes the way it's going.
Yeah, it is. And that's never going to change. It's never going to get easier. It's always going to be harder. But I think because it's gotten harder, the people that actually do decide to make the change see a bigger impact. Because when it years ago, when it was easy to okay, I'll leave and do this, there wasn't much impact. It was like you went from here to here. I think when people now say, so you've got 10 people, right? We'll use an example. There's 10 people. 20 years ago, 5 of them make a change. Okay, they move from here to here. Now you have those same 10 people. 3 of them might decide to make the change. They move from here to here. There's a bigger impact.
Yeah.
There's a bigger movement. I think that's what's happening in society. There's a lot more people that are stuck in the box and want to stay there because it's comfortable, it's warm, it's nice, it's cozy.
Yeah.
The 3 people that get to the point where they're like, shit, I got to change, they see a bigger, because the good side of technology allows them to make that bigger move.
Right.
Because it's now easier to do it. And that's where I think it's that double-edged sword. It hinders the 7 over here, but the 3 that make the jump, it benefits them tremendously.
One of the things that I always had a hard time wrestling with was that there's just generational apathy. Meaning, my grandfather worked at the mill, my dad worked at the mill. I guess I'm going to work at the mill. And they earn enough money to get by, and they take and they live for those 2 weeks of vacation a year. Look, I don't want anyone listening to this thinking that I am downgrading that lifestyle or I am devaluing it. I am not. There is a lot of great inner human goodness in hard work. My issue is that I think it isn't fair to the young people coming up if we don't give them some latitude to figure things out on their own. It's not. I don't believe it's a good parental decision to force or try to force any particular path on anyone. Yeah, and I know that's a scary thing to do. I have an 18-year-old and I have a 16-year-old.
Yeah, no,
But sometimes I gotta bite my tongue because I don't want them to feel. And how do you feel about this? I love the fact that my children have seen entrepreneurship. Yeah, they've watched it. Yep. They had no interest in what I was doing, but they saw one parent do that. Yep. Then they saw the other parent have an excellent career in corporate America. Yeah, excellent, dynamic, and I assume fulfilling and very rewarding. So they see both. Yeah. So I think that there's a value to that. Would you not agree?
Absolutely.
Exposure-wise.
Yeah, absolutely.
But a lot of kids aren't seeing that. And I didn't see it growing up.
I didn't either.
I didn't see it, and it just seems to be, it's a shame because you just think of the dystopian society, everybody just dredging off to work every morning, and that drives me nuts.
Well, but I do think there are, because I've spoken in schools around here, they are trying to encourage entrepreneurship more in schools. Like I've spoken to a lot of high schools and middle schools around the area.
Good to hear.
Yeah, that I go in and talk about entrepreneurship and the journey and the ups and downs of it. So I think the schools are starting to make a shift. But I think you're right. Like my kids see the entrepreneur. Like my daughters. I have a 17-year-old son, 9-year-old, and a 6-year-old daughter.
Okay.
My daughters, they would set up their own little office in the house and make bracelets and then sell them to me and my wife and write us bills and invoices. And so they're watching what we're doing and they're kind of following suit. And I would love for my kids to, even my son, like he did his SATs, he's going to go to college, but if he would have come to me and said, you know what, I want to start a business, I honestly want to I would have been totally fine with that. Right. Say, yeah, I'll help you do that. And if my daughters come to me one day and say, I don't think college is for me, I want to try my hand at something, I'd support them and help them and encourage them to do that, because I believe if I can teach my kids to earn a living themselves, like you said, you can give a person a fish or teach them to fish. If I can teach my kids to fish, they'll be set for life. But I don't think people focus on that. Parents, we get caught up. Parenting's hard, right? It's the hardest job you ever do. I don't know what I'm doing 90% of the time. I just hope my kids don't die or kill each other. Like, that's the main thing. So you're trying to guide them, and I think a lot of parents just get caught up in the day-to-day of just doing the things kids need done. Herding the cattle and making sure like my daughters aren't killing each other. It's one of those things. But then, I have to take that step back and think long term. Like, what am I showing them? And it's, as parents, I think we have a hard time doing that. And from a business perspective and from just a life perspective, I look at it. With daughters, I I look at myself as the man they're going to set the bar against. So I have to be a certain way. I have to treat people a certain way around them. I have to treat, everybody with respect, which I do anyways, but I know that as their father, I'm the bar they're going to set every man against.
Right.
So if I'm a shitty human being, they're going to settle for shitty human beings.
Right.
So I want to set the bar so high that my daughters will never compromise. And the same thing with my son. Like, I want him to see the example of what a man is.
And that's a huge problem in society.
Yeah.
And that's why we have inner city problems, and that's why we have a lot of the strife we have in societies, because there's not enough good dads. There's not enough dads, period.
Yeah.
Not fathers, dads.
Yeah.
And then the dads need to understand what an example their words, behaviors. I mean, words are the elixir of life, right? But we abuse them so bad.
Yeah. I mean, people. That's a really good point, because actions are one thing, right? And actions mean a lot, but what you say, the programming you're giving yourself, like, words are so important. What we say to our kids, there's a great book by Shad Hoffmeister. It's called What You Say When You Talk to Yourself. It's a phenomenal book, and it talks about how we talk to ourselves as people and why we operate the way we do. The average human being says 70% negative stuff to themselves on a day-to-day basis. When you think about that, the average kid hears the word no 10 times more than they hear the word yes.
Right.
So we're programming ourselves to look at things negatively.
Right.
And in the book, he goes into this example of looking at your brain as a computer.
Okay.
And it's like your brain is the hardware. What you say is the software.
Right.
So right now, if things aren't working the way you want them to, you have to change the software.
Right.
You have to, and he goes through this whole progression of the ways you talk to yourself and different things you say to yourself. It's a really great book, and I'm reading it right now for the second time, and it's just the way he explains it and articulates the process is very simple, because he relates it to, okay, if my brain is a computer, what I say is the software. I just need to talk to myself in a different way to get different results. And then I started thinking, like, how do I talk to my kids?
Right.
Do I talk with positive words? Do I encourage them? Or am I constantly telling them no? And you start thinking about things differently. Now I won't say, no, don't do that. I'll say, why don't you try it this way?
Yeah.
And just those little nuances.
The way the structure of the sentence was the word selection.
Yeah. But it's powerful. It's so powerful, because it programs you a certain way.
Yeah.
But people don't think about those things. Luckily I'm a lawyer, and I work with words, so I understand the art of language. But
that's a lost art.
It is. It really is. When you hear people speak or formulate thoughts, or even when I read people's emails or text messages, it's the most, granted, I'm not saying I'm the grammar police or the spelling police, but I can't tell you how many times I'll get emails from people that are professionals.
You can't decipher.
I'm like, what the hell do you because people don't understand the punctuation. You put a comma in a wrong place, or don't put a comma in a place it should be, that changes the entire meaning of a sentence. That's how I look at contracts, right? I'm a business lawyer, so I look at contracts. A comma or a colon or a semicolon can change the entire meaning of a clause. And it's that lost art. But people do it just, they'll send an email with no punctuation.
I see it all the time. That's where this is what's scary about society, and especially for your business.
Yeah.
I think that texting and email, the lines are going to blur completely at some point.
Oh yeah.
So business emails are going to be written as with emojis, and you can already put emojis in emails on smartphones.
Yes,
it's insanity to me.
You can do it on a MacBook too. You hit Command Control Spacebar, and the emoji keyboard pops up.
Yeah, I mean, it's such a different society, communication in general.
And my thing with text messaging, I always say, I'm not a long texter. If I have to go like this on the phone to read your text, I'm not going to read them. I'm just going to pick up the phone and call you.
So you'd rather have the email.
Well, either email, or if you have to write that much in a text, just call me. We can sort this out, because now I have to read it and respond to it.
Yeah.
Where it might have been a 30-second phone call.
Right.
But I've had friends or clients that have done that, where they'll send these really long ones, and I'm like, we need to have a discussion. Like, it's hard to respond to something like that, and if you have to write that much, call me.
So here's the dilemma I have. I'm a realtor by day.
Yeah.
So one of the important things is to find out exactly what method of communication my clients want.
Okay, I get it.
If they're 45 and under, I can guarantee that they don't mind speaking with me, but they prefer that I text them.
Yes.
I say, if it's longer, can I email you? Oh, just send me multiple texts. So I'm driving using voice text because I'm not punching anything in.
Yep.
But the crazy thing about voice text is it doesn't always get the articulation of your voice correct. So you still have to stop when you're done, proofread it, and then if you make a mistake, pull over and try to manually. It's a hassle.
Yeah.
But I'm guilty of sending mammoth text messages because it's a complex issue that I need an answer from, and they don't want a phone call.
Do you want me to give you a tip?
Yeah.
Just hit the voice record. Just send the voice recorded memo.
Why didn't I figure that out?
I mean, all transparency, I didn't figure out. A guy I've worked with before, he sent one to me. I'm like, oh my God, that's genius. Like, why didn't I think about that? Just instead of hitting the microphone or voice text, hit the record button and just talk. And it just sends a voice message.
I'm sure I'll get a complaint from someone that's just harder for them.
Of course.
They have to actually listen now instead of like read.
Of course. I mean, but it saves time. And like he sent me messages like that, and I thought to myself, how did I not know that or do that?
I didn't know that.
Pretty genius.
Maybe I got to start doing that as well too. I don't know.
It's a good tip.
So before we close this down, I want to ask you about the TEDx. That's fascinating to
absolutely.
me. So how did that happen? Did I read that you had set yourself a goal to give one of those speeches?
Yep. Yeah, probably in 2015, 2016, I started writing it down on my goal books, and I can go back and pull them up. And
that's cool.
I think it was like 2016. I said I wanted to do a TEDx talk.
All right.
So, once I left corporate America, that was kind of on my goal. So I worked with this company. They kind of help you put applications together. So I submitted a bunch of different applications, and I got offered 4 different talks.
Wow.
Yeah. So it was so you with the TEDx, they're all independently put on. Mm-hmm. So you have to submit applications, to submit a video of what your talk's going to be about, kind of you speaking. So the process is very intense. Like, you have to really go through it. And you have to, what I've told people, because I've talked to people that want to do a TED Talk, you have to have something different. It can't be just a motivational talk.
Right.
Mine was called the Unbillable Hour. And it was about kindness in the business world, in the legal profession.
Right.
People are like, wait a minute, that's different. So, so I got these 4 offers. I picked the one I thought would be the best. I think I picked the wrong one because the video is still not out yet.
Yeah, I was looking for it. I did see your wife filmed the journey up there. It was very cool.
Yeah.
In Toronto? Is that where you went?
Yeah, Toronto. Yeah, it was a Guelph University. And it was a great event, and they put it on well, but I had messaged the guys there in like March. Hey, what's going on with the video? They're like, oh, well, the kid got behind in school and they're having some technical difficulties. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, so that probably means they didn't record it. Something happened, but it is what it is. Like, I did it. Yeah. But what was interesting about that is that led to a talk I did in New York called Speakers Who Dare. So some of the applications I submitted, one was to TEDx Lincoln Square.
Got it.
So, which was the one in New York, was a pretty big event. The 2 curators that put that on were leaving and creating this whole new thing called Speakers Who Dare. So when they got my application, they reached out and said, hey, we're not doing that. We're doing this new event. We'd love for you to apply to that when the application's open. So I applied to that, and they accepted me there, and that was a phenomenal event. It was at the end of March. So the TED Talk was 14 minutes. This one was an 8-minute talk. It was a lot harder because...
Very concise.
Well, that's what I always say. I can get up and talk. Like, we've been talking this whole time, no script, just chatting. I can do this anywhere.
We're riffing.
Right. But if you have to talk for 8 minutes, every single word matters.
No
every
question.
Single enunciation.
I love that,
the pace of your voice. It was... And what they did, they put on this huge... It was like a Broadway playhouse. Like, it was an off-Broadway theater in New York.
Okay.
It was an amazing production value. Like, these 2 women put on this thing, and it was incredible. The video's out. I mean, just an incredible experience. But the whole TEDx experience led to that.
Wow.
Which was just phenomenal. I had a blast. I met some cool people there. Just made some great connections.
But isn't that entrepreneurship in a nutshell? Isn't that networking? Isn't that what's just getting outside your comfort zone?
Yeah.
Good things will happen if you take a chance.
That's it. That was the whole TED experience was, that was the first time, I've spoken a lot, like, to schools. I spoke with the University of Pitt, their football team, their basketball team.
Right.
This was the first time I was getting on like a pretty big stage. And be it there was only 120 people there, because you can only sell 120 tickets to a TED event. I was nervous. There's a certain license you get where you can only sell so many tickets. I was a nervous wreck until I
You
stepped
look pretty
on
stressed
stage.
in the video that your wife was filming you on your journey up there.
Yeah, I mean, I really, because I had practiced it so much, I started forgetting it.
Yeah, I bet.
And then I was scheduled for the afternoon, so it was right after lunch. I was, I think, the second speaker after lunch, and you're kind of in this, I don't want to call it a green room, like a little hallway before you go out. And I was listening to my music I listened to, and I was a nervous wreck. Like, I just didn't know what to expect. I walked out on stage, stood in the red circle they put, the whole TED red circle, and it's like the world froze.
Wow.
And it was this complete sense of calm. And I don't even remember giving the talk or what came out of my mouth. It was just my brain dumped it out. And it just went flawlessly. And I walked off, and I always say, that I always say my grandmother was with me with that one, because it's, she was my inspiration. I talked about her in the talk a lot, about how she was really she taught me kindness. She was this powerful, very, patriarchal woman, but she was also one of the kindest people I've ever known. And she taught me that. And she was a big part of the talk. And I just felt like her presence was there with me when I spoke. And it was just, when I was done, the feeling was just amazing. And what was even better is the people that came up to me afterwards, like these young college kids that all thought what I said, but didn't feel they could talk about it.
Wow, how about that?
And that was a powerful thing. So it's like, okay, yeah, you can.
No doubt.
I'm this 40-year-old guy that's a lawyer and an entrepreneur. They're looking at me like, well, if you can talk about that means this, what I believe really matters. And I had people messaging me and email, connect with me afterwards. It was just a really cool. I was very fortunate. I feel very blessed to have that opportunity. And it was, and it's led to so many cool things. It was
if
awesome.
that doesn't come out on video, would you be open to recording that?
Yeah, I mean,
in audio.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I could absolutely.
I mean, I'm just giving you a suggestion. If it was that good, I mean, people need to hear it. At least hear it.
No, I agree. And I did the talk in New York, and I did another one at the Momentum Conference in California, which that video is coming out in August. I've already seen it.
Okay.
Both of those talks were on the same premise. Okay. They were structured differently, and they were different. There was the core piece, like the data that I talked about, was a lot of it was the same. The story that I crafted around it was different. So if you listen to both of those talks, it'll give you 80% of the TED Talk.
Got it.
So I hope the video comes out, but
I'm sure it will.
I'm knocking on wood, because it just popped up yesterday as I was thinking about it, and I started looking. I'm like, wait a minute, their videos from 2018 aren't even out yet.
Wow.
I'm like, oh shit, I picked the wrong one, but it is what it is.
Well, how can our audience get a hold of you? The best way to reach you?
You can go to either one of my websites. So my personal coaching speaking website is just roccocozza.com. Then my law firm website is cozzalaw.com, COZZALAW. Yeah, simple enough. And then very active on Instagram, the Rocco Cozza, all one word.
Facebook.
And Facebook as well, same username for my Facebook page, and then my law firm page is just Cozza
just
Law.
type in his name, it'll appear. Just to go to Google. If you can't, you're not looking hard. You can't find him.
If you put in my name on Google, you will find all my stuff on the first page. I can promise you that. There's not many people
I would like
Rocco.
to invite you to be a regular guest on this show.
I would love to. This is amazing.
I think we could really do some good things here. And I appreciate you letting me participate in this conversation with you.
This is great.
I'm not a motivational speaker by any stretch of the imagination, but it has helped my life. The content of self-development has helped me. So having an opportunity to chat with you about it, someone that's in that field, was fascinating to me.
This was great. And again, I hate to even say that I'm a motivational speaker. I'm just a guy that talks about some stuff I've learned. That's the way I look at it. Because I always think
communication's everything.
It's it. And it's motivational speakers.
There's a stigma there, I guess.
Yeah, I'm just I just get up and talk about what I learned. This was I really enjoyed this. Yeah, that's it.
That's the premise of this show. Is just to share and really. Whether it's we do a joke about going down the rabbit hole, or we're just basically having in-depth conversations, which I think doesn't happen anymore.
No, people are afraid to talk. Yeah. People are afraid to. I think people are afraid to open the kimono and let people in.
Right.
They're afraid to be vulnerable.
Right. That's it.
But here's the thing.
That's it, Rocco. That's it.
That is it. But here's the thing. Vulnerability is one of the most powerful things a person can have. The moment you become vulnerable gives you so much power over people. Not saying you have to have power over people.
No, I get it.
But it just gives you that power, because then if I'm vulnerable and I'm okay with it, what can you do to me?
Right.
You can't harm me.
You're invincible.
I'm invincible. Exactly. But people think they have to have this wall up. No, let it open.
Yeah.
Then that's where the invincibility comes from.
You know, David Goggins is.
Yes, amazing,
Right.
amazing.
Yeah, because he's crazy. But I mean, he's like a human machine almost. But that was one of the things he somewhat worded that way. Like he feels invincible because he you can't hurt me because I'm open to everything. I'll take the body shot, but you can't defeat me. And it's an attitudinal thing with him.
It is,
and I hear that from you too.
Yeah, it really. I mean, he went through Navy SEAL training 3 times, so he's done a lot more crazy shit.
No. In terms of like those kind of unique experiences, but the concept kind of the same.
Absolutely. It's just and again, it comes down to you have to be comfortable with who you are.
Yeah.
I'm comfortable with who I am as a man. Right, and I think men especially, we have all these stigmas right now.
Right.
This
Right.
toxic masculinity, all this bullshit people are talking about. I'm comfortable with who I am as a man.
Yeah.
And once I became comfortable with that, that's when it's okay to be vulnerable.
Right.
Like I'll get emotional. I'll cry
Sure.
about it. When my dog died 2 years ago, I bawled like a baby. It was the first time my son said he ever saw me cry.
Right.
I bawled like a baby.
Right.
There's shit that makes me emotional, and I'm okay with that. I'm vulnerable enough as a man to admit I have feelings, I have emotions, but that's what makes me strong. That's what gives me that invincibility, because nothing can hurt me because I'll let it all out. I don't hide anything. I'm very authentic.
No question.
Yeah.
And with that, I want to invite you back when we do this again.
Absolutely, man.
I'd do it on a regular basis.
Yeah, I'd be happy to, man. This is great. I love doing stuff like this. This would be awesome, man.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely, man. Appreciate it.
There's a wrap. Show 25. God bless y'all. That's it, man.
Dude, that was awesome, man. It was so much fun.